Wow, I was just like 10 minutes into the second podcast and my power gave out in my computer and I lost the whole thing. Always hate when that happens. Okay, so I have open and you can see on your screen the module for week one. I'm not going to talk about the syllabus. You know what a syllabus quiz is. Um, I want to make a couple of points. And first of all, here's the podcast. I'm going to go ahead and click on that. So you can see the podcast. You click there to find the podcast lectures. And there are five this week. Let's go back here. The key point here is take a look at the outline that I post underneath each podcast. I feel very comfortable testing you on everything that's in an outline that I give. That's where I signal you the names and the dates that you need to know. So if you see a name and a date in the outline, know it, because like I say, I'm quite comfortable in testing you on anything that I put on an outline. In fact, I don't think it's a bad idea at all to just cut and paste the outline to your notes, or take it off of Canvas and have it with you as you listen to the podcast and as you take notes on the podcast. One of the things, and I don't think I said this, but I'm going to say it now. If it's a repeat, I apologize. You can use your notes when you're taking the quizzes and the midterms. It's open note. I could drive myself crazy by making it closed notes and then wondering if students are looking at their notes. How am I going to tell, right? It's just the online world that we live in. Anyway, I'll just make it open note, just make my life easier, your life easier. But I will say this, though. One of the challenges for open note tests is you can run out of time. So make sure that your notes are organized. And I would organize your notes along the lines that I organize the module. So anyway, open note test. So here's the podcast. Then what I'm having you look at are two brief online discussions of two indigenous groups that existed in Spanish Texas when the Vaca washed ashore, the Caddo in East Texas and the Cronqua along the Gulf Coast of Texas. I've said this a lot, but I can't say it really enough. There were dozens of native groups in Texas in the 1520s when the Cabeza de Vaca washed ashore. But I could drive you nuts by talking about all of them, but I'm not. I'm focusing just on two. I try to just focus on what I think is important. And I guess I'm making selections and I'm making choices. And so for the quiz, I want you to know who these native groups were, where were they located, how were they different? They had very different societies. The Caddo had a very organized society. The Caddo actually had peaked by the 1200s, but they still existed in East Texas in the 1520s. The Cronqua were nomadic. They moved around from year to year. They didn't have the kind of organized society, village society that the Caddo have. So anyway, know these two Indian groups and know the differences between them. Now I get to Cabeza de Vaca, the first significant European encounter in Spanish Texas. I talk about de Vaca because I think he's fascinating. I think he had tremendous courage, really unbelievable courage, also tough. I really appreciate people that are tough. But also I admire, he's very humane. Maybe that's really kind of a weak word. What I mean by that is that when he washed ashore in what is now Spanish Texas, he thought he was superior to the native groups he encountered. But by the time he went back by the time he walked across North America and he reunited with the Spanish, he had gained a tremendous respect for the native groups that he encountered. And so I really admire his humanity, his insight, his evolution as a person. I think it's very admirable. And so anyway, so I want you to know about him, and and just like I say, it's kind of the first recorded history or a description of Texas, and that happens when de Vaca goes back home and writes his account of his time in Texas. As I've said a bunch, I cannot stress to you how much life will be easier for you if you take a look at this map. It's in German, but who cares? It makes sense. You know the geography of the area. De Vaca starts in Cuba, washes ashore in Texas, walks across America, meets the Spanish in Northwest Mexico, which is now Northwest Mexico, goes back to Mexico City, then Madrid. Take a look at this map. It'll really help make his journey. Maps are worth 1,000 words. Okay. Okay. Let me go back to the module now. Now with the discussions, Dr. De La Teja, a great professor at Texas State. These are very brief discussions, and he's a real expert on de Vaca. He fills in some of the blanks about de Vaca in these short essays. And I'm going to test you on just what are the basic points that Dr. De La Teja makes about de Vaca in each of these videos. So when you're listening to the videos, you don't have to drive yourself crazy. Just what are the points that he's making in each of these videos about Cabeza de Vaca and the native groups that he encounters? For instance, when he goes, the writings of de Vaca's La Relation, which you're reading, why does he do that? When does he do that? Just get a sense of the overall. Okay, you don't have to drive yourself crazy with the details, but get a sense of the overall. Then this is the, you know what, I'm going to stop here instead of, and then talk about this in another podcast.